Hello people, I'm the Comic Book Gamer, and today I'm going to be talking about Hawkeye Generations #1, which I actually surprisingly enjoyed because the last Generations book and the only other Generations book that I read from Marvel is the Wolverine Generations, which was absolutely terrible and a mess and had like one good part, and it was overall really bad. And I heard the other Generations books, like the Thor book and the Hulk book, were really bad as well, so I didn't have any high hopes for any of the Generations books, but this book was actually pretty good. I really enjoyed it. It's a great one-shot. If you don't know what Generations is, it's basically where they take the new version of the characters of the Marvel heroes and they send them back in time to sort of a part where the old original character is in their prime. It's not really explained. I don't know if this has something to do with Secret Empire, because I'm going to read Secret Empire when it comes out in trade, so I'm not reading it right now. But I don't know if it has something to do with that or anything, but in the books, they don't explain it at all. They're just sent back in time, and that's it. There's no explanation for it. They're sent back in time to go see the original hero. But anyways, this book was written by Kelly Thompson. The art is done by Stefano Raffaele, and they both did a fantastic job. I really enjoy it. The setup on it is great, and just the whole overarching story and the characters are really interesting and good, and it's just well executed. Now, first off, I've never had any problem with Kate Bishop. I liked her. I thought they did a good job of setting her up, taking over the Hawkeye book. That being said, I still wish Clint had his own book, or at least they had their own book together, because Clint is my Hawkeye. He's who I prefer as Hawkeye, but I do like Kate Bishop. Matt Fraction's run is the run I always go back to, because basically, if Hawkeye was a religion, then Matt Fraction's run is the Bible, because his run on Hawkeye is like no other. It is the best run on Hawkeye ever. Is great, and he did a good job mixing Clint Barton and Kate Bishop, and he even did like one volume that was all pretty much her, but the rest of it was the mix of them, but more focused on Clint, and I really enjoyed his run. And since then, Hawkeye's just kind of gone downhill. I've read some of the current run. It's not bad, it's just I do prefer Clint Barton's, and I'm not really going to spend money on this run, but again, I don't have a problem with Kate Bishop. So what happens in this issue, spoilers by the way, if you don't want it spoiled, of course I'm going to be spoiling stuff for this book. So this book opens up with Kate Bishop on an island, and she doesn't really know what's going on, and then she runs into Hawkeye, Clint Barton, and they start talking. She tells him that she can trust him. She calls him Clint, and this was back before everyone knew that Clint Barton and Hawkeye were one and the same. So he's like, how do you know that name? How do you know that that's my name? She basically just tells him, like, you know, I just know things. And in her head the whole time she's like, crap, I can't say anything. I don't want the butterfly effect. I've seen so many movies where if you say one little thing, you can ruin everything. And she's like freaking out in her own mind. I love it, because that's kind of like how every person would be if they got sent back in time. Everyone would, well, most people with common sense would be like, what can I do and not do? Because I don't want to screw up the entire timeline by just saying one little thing. Like, that would not be good. And so I like her inner monologue here. But they have a good conversation, and Clint ends up asking her, like, why aren't you wearing a belt like the others? Because it turns out this is a competition. So someone took all of the best marksmen, put them on an island, gave them these belts, so that way if you shoot the other person's belt, it's a bullseye. That turns them into, that teleports them to a safe place. But the problem is, this person brought a crap ton of villains to the island. The villains don't care about that, and they're just killing a bunch of people. So it's not the safe, friendly game that was going to be, because you get like a bunch of money if you win, and you're claimed as the best marksman. You get to say, hey, I was the best marksman because I won, and I got a pile of cash. But instead of it being, you know, all safe and friendly because everyone's shooting their belts, no, everyone is just killing each other because the villains aren't exactly the good guys. And so that's what we learn is going on the island. And I think that's a really cool setup for a story. You have Clint Barton on this island going off against the best marksmen in the world, but they're trying to kill each other, and Clint's trying to find out who's doing this to shut it all down because he doesn't like the bloodbath that it's become. And I really like that setup. So then Clint and Kate have a conversation where Kate uses the term asshat, which was back then no one said asshat. So it's funny because throughout the entirety of the rest of the issue, Clint says asshat because he's never heard the word before, but he likes it, and so it becomes a part of his vocabulary. And she's like, crap, I've already said too much. I introduced the word asshat way too early, and I like that, like, as a little touch. But anyways, they're having a conversation, and she's asking, well, he's asking her a bunch of questions. She just basically says, Black Widow trusted me with your name, and that's how I know who you are, and I'm sort of working for Black Widow. know, and we're sort of friends-ish, and that's her explanation for how she knows things and how she got there. And while they're sitting there, Kate ends up making fun of his costume, and she tries on his mask, and we see in her inner monologue, she's talking about how she's always wanted to try on the classic Hawkeye mask, and it's just a great moment between the two. And then they start fighting more people, and she says later, well, she says during this that she saw someone that looked like Bullseye, and this was before Bullseye was big, so Hawkeye's like, wait, who the heck is Bullseye? He doesn't know who that is. She's like, he killed a guy with a playing card once. So that comes into play later. They get to this part of the island that looks like a base that Hawkeye had already scoped out earlier, and he's waiting to go inside, but now that he has a teammate, Kate Bishop, to come and help him, he decides to send her inside while he stays outside and takes care of the heavy hitters that would be going after her. But then Swordsman shows up. Swordsman is the guy that trained Hawkeye and taught him most of what he knows, and he does not trust him at all, but this guy's like, nah, you can trust me, I'm here to help, you know, I'll help you fight these guys. If you have to go against more than one, you're going to need my help. So Hawkeye trusts him at first. Well, he doesn't trust him at all, but he needs his help. He does need someone help, because if he goes against like Bullseye and Taskmaster at the same time, it's not going to end well for Hawkeye, so he's just going along with it because he kind of has to. So then we see Clint Barton's inner monologue, and what I love about this is they're using thought bubbles for him, which we hardly ever see anymore at all, because back in the day it used to be all thought bubbles, but now it's all those, you know, those like colored square boxes, and that's what they use, and that's what they're using for Kate Bishop. She's got her own like purple boxes since she's Hawkeye and she's purple, and so I like seeing that they have Hawkeye who's, you know, old-timey Hawkeye, and he's using thought bubbles, and Kate is using the new that's, well, not that new, but that what they use now, the sort of boxes, and I really like that. There's a lot of great dialogue in here and good quips and just back and forth, and I love it. The writer nails Clint Barton and Kate Bishop. It's done so well, so it really makes me want a team-up book again. But yeah, one of my favorite parts is when Clint leaves to go and just like stay outside the well, to go and hunt like the big guys and stay outside the base to try to stop them from going inside to get Kate. He tells her, he says, okay, well, if this Bullseye guy kills me with a playing card, tell no one, make up a good story. And I just love that part, and there's a lot of other great moments and just some great dialogue in here. And we see that Kate finds out who's behind it. It looks like it's this lady named Eden, but then she finds out that who's really behind it is Swordsman, and Eden is his new protege, and he set up this whole thing so Hawkeye could meet Eden, because Hawkeye is Swordsman's greatest creation. And so they have a little moment between each other where Hawkeye's like, yeah, you didn't create me, I'm not for you. Eden's like, yeah, Swordsman doesn't seem like a good guy, so she just leaves him. So that's when everything just kind of gets resolved, and then at the end of the book we get a good moment between Kate and Clint where they're just sitting on a cliff talking to each other. Then we get a great moment between Kate and Hawkeye where Kate is just telling him everything she can without ruining the timeline, just talking about their current relationship and the current timeline, and she goes on this big monologue where it's just her talking, and then we see Hawkeye fell asleep during it, and she's like, of course he never changes, and then she gets sent back to the past. And I just loved it. It was a really fun book, a great one-shot. I hate that it was $5 though. It really sucks that Marvel's charging $5 for these books, but if you really want some good Hawkeye again, I would say it's worth it, but otherwise, I don't know, you might not want to. It's a great issue. It's just it's hard to justify $5 for a single issue, but it is a really good book, and it's the best. I've only read 2 Generations books, including this one, and the only other one I'm planning to read is Captain America, but it's leaps and bounds better than Wolverine, the Wolverine Generations book. But this book is really good. If you were interested in picking it up at all, I'd say definitely pick it up. It's really good. It's way better than I thought. The characters are nailed. There's no, like with Wolverine, where they made Wolverine a fangirl of X-23, and she just kept one-upping him and just showing how much better she was than him. There wasn't any of that. There was just 2 people that were really good friends that had a great relationship and were talking and had great dialogue and were just like fighting baddies together. There wasn't like, I'm better than you. Oh wow, look how much better Kate is than Clint. There wasn't any of that. It was great. It wasn't a competition. I loved it. It was just a really well done book. So if you haven't read it and you were interested in it, definitely pick it up. But anyways, if you've read this issue, please let me know in the comments below. What did you think about it? And if you guys want to continue the conversation, you can follow me on Twitter. And yeah, that'll be linked in the description. I hope to see you guys in the next one. So yeah. See ya.
Yeah, I grew up with a prenup. Mama said keep my C up. Now noticing I'm getting caught cracker and getting beat up, but I stayed up long nights, working hard on my craft. Gave a fuck about the bullies or anyone in my path.